So good morning, everyone, and welcome to Yin Yoga. As we always do, let's sit for a moment and center ourselves. Allow the weight of your pelvis to land on whatever it is you're sitting on. If you feel a little congested around your inner groins, I want you to sit up on something. I always sit on this big cushion. Let your inner groins relax. We're going to focus a little bit on that area today. And close your eyes. Start to take a couple of breaths. Settle yourself in. Allow the breath to move downward towards the belly. And today, let's think about what I like to call the inner hip crease. This pelvis and this inner groin. And if you're sitting cross-legged, the legs will naturally fall open. So just breathe down in this area. I've been focusing more and more on this idea of fascial flossing. If you take my yin class, you know I always do satya, which is somatic movement that addresses the connective tissue. Fascial flossing is a little bit more active, purposeful. And today we're going to work around this area of the lower body because there's so many lymph glands that live in this inner hip crease, in this groin area. And the lymph glands are responsible for cleaning out, if you will, and moving the lymph through the body to either eliminate it through the liver and the kidneys or move the more positive lymph around into the tissues. So when these areas get congested, these glands don't work very well. So we'll take a moment here. I'm going to read you something from a book that I've been looking at lately called Lighter. Let go more than once. Let go when an old pattern wants to drag you back into the past. Let go when narratives run wild in your mind. Let go every time you try to cause yourself extra trouble. There is healing in repetition. Soon, peace will feel familiar. Take a nice deep breath. Allow the hands to come to your heart center, maybe holding that idea of letting go of repetitive patterns that we have in our mind. That each day is a new day, each moment is a new moment. And we can get dragged down and moved backwards by these repetitive patterns in our body and in our mind. Let go and be peace, ease, flow. As you exhale, you can release your hands, softly open your eyes, gently roll the shoulders. I don't know about you, but I do that all the time. Do you guys have this we have repetitive patterns all the time. We're going to start in a different position today, in a lunging position with our blocks. This is why we needed our blocks today. So I want you to come to your mat. And if you're like me, and you have a blanket, and you are a little bit nervous around your knees, you can take the blanket and put it down on your knees. I'm going to turn a little on an angle, just so you can see what I'm going to do a little bit better. So I want your blocks on the highest level, and I want you to take your right foot forward so that you're in this kneeling lunge position, but I want the foot out in front of you more, so not directly underneath your knee. And then take your blocks somewhere where you're comfortable. Now, when you do this fascial flossing idea, you need two things. You need a little engagement to the muscle, and you need a little action to elongate the muscle. So we're going to target the back of the leg here. So I want you to move forward so that your knee tracks over your ankle. You're going to hold yourself up. From here, I want you to push down into that front foot and try to drag it backwards. And you'll feel your hamstring light up. Keep that and start to move your hips backward in slow motion. And when you get to your end range, you'll find it. I want you to release it. Take a breath, inhale, soften, and come back to the beginning. When you're back here, push, pull the foot, and then drag your hips back, or glide, we could call it. So what I'm doing is I get here, I can feel I can't go any further, so then I'm just gonna release it and come forward, push down into my foot, try to pull my foot backward, I feel my hamstring, and then keep that action as I move backward. And we move slowly so that the muscle can get a little attention. The fascia around the muscle gets a little attention. And what we're trying to do is the muscles in the back of our leg the connective tissue in the back of the body can directly interfere with the inner groin. The connective tissue wraps around the joints and the muscles and the organs. It's not a straight line. Last one here. Push and pull and then glide your hip back. Find your end range and then release. Go ahead and switch your legs out and we'll do the other side. So this is called fascial flossing. We're doing it on purpose to create a little bit of action, muscle activation and elongation. So push down into your left foot, drag it backward, but don't move it, and then slowly move back. Now I've got my foot flat on the floor, but you can lift the ball of the foot up if you'd like. And then come forward. Inhale, push and drag, and then lean back or glide your hips slowly back. And then come forward, inhale, push and glide. So there's a little bit of a tension going on here. It's like yin, only we're moving, right? There's all different ways to get at this connective tissue. This is another way. It's just another way. So I'm going to start adding these kind of actions in my classes. Just one in the beginning, just to get us started. Good, let's do one more. And then go ahead and relax. Now we're going to stay here. We're going to take the right foot forward again. And now we're going to go into a yin posture. So what I'd like you to do is glide this knee right over the ankle. Keep your foot flat on the floor. Find an edge where we want to stay. And I want you to stay up on your blocks. So we're paying attention to this inner groin here. So go ahead and lean forward. Let your hips get heavy. Keep your chest up. And we're going to find our edge and pause. Okay, so here's your beginning yin. Get my timer out. And as we're settling in here, this is a different strategy. Same intention, putting tension against tissue to create a release in the tissues. I've been reading a lot about lymph flow. Carmen, this is really important for you right now. And it's important for all of us when these lymphatic systems get a little clogged up. It doesn't really release the toxins properly, and then they kind of circulate in the system and cause a lot of havoc. So any way that we can do two things, create good lymphatic flow and keep a healthy liver. Because what does the lymph do? It pushes the toxins into the liver, and then the liver has to remove it. Well, if your liver's gunked up with all kinds of crazy, then it has a harder time. And we're starting to see more and more of something called fatty liver disease. Before, we never even heard of that. We'd have cirrhosis of the liver. Most of the time it was from drinking, but nope, we've got fatty liver disease now, which is a direct relationship to our diet, the toxins in our food and our environment, maybe even our lifestyle and our relationships. So something to consider. One of the doctors I follow, she's a functional medicine doctor. She has a protocol called Loving Your Liver, which I like. All right, so now we're going to switch. I want you to slow motion. Don't do this fast. We're going to move in the opposite direction. So now the hips are going to go back. Your leg is going to straighten and you're going to find that edge. Now, depending on where you are in your body, you can move the blocks and put your fingers down. You can maybe lower the blocks if you like. I'm going to stay up on my blocks, maybe land on my forearms, maybe be here. What I'd like is the body weight to be over the leg so you can really feel this tugging on the hamstring, similarly to what we were doing before. Try to keep your head in neutral, soft eyes. So unlike that first movement pattern, that flossing, we're not moving back and forth. We're holding a steady action. If you keep your foot flat on the floor, you're going to maybe get some action around the top of the foot. A lot of people are tight here. And just breathing, settling in, contemplating this idea of letting go of repetitive patterns. They keep coming up and around because we have something to learn from them. But once we learn it, maybe we'll be lucky we don't have it anymore. One of my repetitive patterns came up yesterday. And some of you might know that I'm looking for a house back east, not to move to, but to use as an Airbnb and have it as a summer property. And I find myself trying to make a house work for me rather than being patient and allowing the house to come to me, the one that I want, not just trying to make something work. All right, slow, careful, start to come up out of that. Take a moment, slide that foot back, and switch legs. We'll do the same thing on this side. So this first one, we want to stay lifted. We want to be able to bring the knee forward enough so that you feel some tension or a little bit of a sensation around your opposite hip flexor area, that hip crease. So in this one, your hip gets kind of heavy with gravity and you're holding yourself up. So my repetitive habit is to try to make something work rather than say to myself, you know, that's not really working for me. I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to trust that something better is going to come along. And that could be applied to anything. And I've done this my whole life. It does make my life a little harder. I struggle a little bit more with that pattern. And to go against your own repetitive patterns is hard. You have to have some consciousness around it. Otherwise, you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. So have you ever had something like that just keep showing up? I had my groomer came yesterday and she was talking about the men she's been dating. And it's bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. So she finally said, I'm taking a hiatus and I'm not going to date anybody for 6 months. And I said, good for you. Because she realized it's this repetitive nature, this repetitive thing that keeps showing up. As best as you can, try not to overwork your arms. I've got my arms kind of locked in place right under my shoulder so that I feel like I'm just supporting myself rather than using my muscles. All right, go ahead and slowly start to move your hips back. Do that in slow motion because that can be pretty glitchy. And then find the length in your hamstring in this front leg now. And then pause there. And again, you can adjust your blocks how you like. It's always kind of interesting to me to see how I'm different on each side. The other side, I was able to put my arms down right away. I can't really do that at this moment. Let your body weight be the gravitational draw towards this hamstring so that you can feel maybe the sensation going from your foot all the way up. And it's not uncommon to feel things in odd places like your ankle or your lower back or your inner thigh or your inner groin, because remember, the connective tissue wraps around tissue. It's not a straight line. Actually, nothing in our body is a straight line. Even our bones are slightly rotated. We're breathing into anything that's showing up. If emotion comes up, please let it go. Don't hold on to the emotion. It's not going to serve you. It'll get stuck in your tissues. And the connective tissue, the fascia, is what they call the communicator. It's the organ of communication. It tells all the other organs and cells what to do. It gives it information. So emotion will get stuck in the tissues, and then we kind of get energetically blocked. So let go of anything that's showing up. You might have laughter, you might have tears, you might have sadness, whatever it is. Nice deep breath here. And then slowly starting to bring yourself up out of that. All right. That's the more challenging sequence. Now we're going to come down on our bodies, on our hips. If you have tight hips, I want you to sit up on a blanket. I'm going to do it without. So this particular action, I like to call zigzag. Yin calls it deer pose. So the easiest way for me to do this is to put my legs down in this kind of, I'm leaning on my left hip and I've got my right leg bent behind me. So this is zigzag. This is a little easier. If you want it to be a little bit more because you don't feel anything, there's like not much happening, you're going to take your front foot, instead of touching your front back leg, you're going to bring it out in front of you. So you made like a 90-degree angle. And then your back foot, instead of bringing it towards your bottom, is going to be in another 90-degree angle. So this is more open, makes it more challenging. So either tuck or open, and you're going to go directly over this front leg. So if this feels hard to you, sit up on a blanket because it might make it easier. And I want you to try to think about fingertips lifting your spine up. And then you can stay here or you can start to drip down. Maybe put a bolster in front of you so that you can bring the floor up to yourself. Find a way that you can be here. You don't have to be down. You can be up on your hands. And we're breathing. So now we're talking to, again, the inner groin of this back leg, but the outer hip of the front. And we find a place where we can rest. A reminder that yin tension is more subtle. It isn't something that you're supposed to feel this great big stretch in, because if you do that, the connective tissue doesn't have a chance to respond. It goes right into the muscles. So try not to make it too hard. These are 2-minute holds. And if it's too hard, 2 minutes will feel like an eternity. Soften your shoulders, soften your face. Don't know if you can hear my puppies out there barking at something. Take a nice deep breath. And we're going to slowly start to come out of that. Now, I want you to pay attention to the leg you got in front, the one that you were over. That one's going to come on top. So straighten your bottom leg, pick up this other one, and bring it across. So now you're sitting up, and the leg you were just over is on top of the other one. So this is half fire log. The foot is flexed. You're sitting up nice and tall, and you're going to lean forward. Now, if you're more open, you can reach around and grab the bottom of your foot. You can see I can't do that. So I might want to take my blocks and put them in front of me so that I can lean forward. I might want to lean on my own leg. Find a way that you can be here. Addressing now the back of the hamstring. Can you feel that in the back of the leg? And then this front hip also. And we're breathing. Don't worry about how straight your spine is or any of that. We're just allowing our body to work with gravity. It's okay to flex your spine. That's something that I've learned as I've been learning more and more in my yoga practices and my therapeutic work. When I was a fitness trainer, everything had pretty rigid rules. You know, don't bend over a certain degree, don't flex your knee past your ankle, don't let your spine round. It had all kinds of rigid rules. I don't know how it is now because I'm not in the field anymore, but our body isn't rigid. Our body moves around in all different kinds of directions. And what starts to happen if you don't take your body in different ranges of motion is they actually lose their energy. They lose their juiciness, if you will. And then we start having injuries. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly go ahead and sit up. Now we're going to do one more here with this leg. I want you to pick this leg up and we're going to wrap it around behind you and put it down so your heel is somewhere near your hip. This is full range of motion for the knee. The knee actually has its own pits, its own glands. And then you see how I'm tipped off to the side? I want to use this hand to push me upright. Now, if that feels impossible, take your blanket and put it underneath your hip. Do you see how I'm trying to fight with myself? So I'm just going to hold myself here. I'm not going to get a blanket because I'm sort of right on the edge. I don't really need it. But I want you to have tension on purpose in this leg. Okay? So find a way that you can sit here for the last 2 minutes. And then breathe. Trying to imagine that this, whatever leg you've got bent, that sit bone is getting heavier and heavier without you pushing on it. Spine's nice and long. Soft face. See how much you can let go. Lately, I've been talking a lot about the flow state. And initially, it started with this idea of the state of my mind. And being in sattva is what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. We can still consider that, and let's consider the flow state of our body. Take a nice deep breath. And then to come out of that, I just want you to lean away from that leg, bring it forward and up, and then stretch it out in front of you. So there's a lot that went on in that whole side just now. All right, so let's do the other side. So do you remember how we started? We started with this zigzag, the easy one. And you can do it that way if you like. Your back leg is in that same position. Or if you want, bring your front leg more forward so that it makes like a 90-degree angle. And then bring this back leg so it's a 90-degree angle. And then on my other side, I actually use my bolster to bring my floor up. So you can do that same thing. I can tell right away the side's tighter. So if you like this open position, it just creates a little bit more energy around the hip creases, which is my focus today. But you can make it the other way if it's too hard. We allow ourselves to settle in, trying to not move around too much. If you've had a lot of caffeine this morning, you'll notice that it's harder to sit still because the caffeine is a stimulant, right? Not only for our body, but for our mind also. So we'll be very active in our mind. And when our mind is active, our body wants to follow. That's why meditation is so, so important. And we can use this practice as a moving meditation. Every time you settle in, you quiet. Letting your breath just flow effortlessly. You can have intention to bring it down into the belly. But try not to work the breath too much. Right, so slowly we're going to start to come up. And we're going to move into that second action. So straighten the back leg out in front of you and then pick up this front leg and bring it over. So you're sitting now more square. Remember, you can use a blanket to sit on if you like. And you take a deep breath, and as you exhale, start to come forward. And finding a place for your hands. I'm just kind of wrapping my hands around my leg, but you can put them out in front of you. You can put them out in the back of you. You can tuck them inside. And we hold for 2 minutes here, working again on the back of this straight leg and this front leg hip crease. In my body, my back of my body is much more restricted than my hips. So that's where I feel my sensation. You might be the other way around. In this position, you can really feel your back body open. So allow the breath to fill up the back body. All right, take a nice deep breath. Start to come up. Last action here is you're going to take this top leg and fold it around behind you so that your foot is near your buttocks and your top of your foot is on the mat. And again, just like on my other side, I want to fall over this way. So I'm going to try and push myself up. And we're going to hold here for another 2 minutes. You can sit up on a blanket underneath this straight leg hip. That'll help square your hips a little. Or you can just hold yourself here like I'm doing. Try to keep the spine nice and long. Letting this bent leg hip feel heavy, like it's dropping more and more to the floor. These kinds of poses, especially ones that flex the knee all the way like this, can feel a little scary. What we're doing is we're, with intention, on purpose, creating tension on the joint and around the lymph glands and the connective tissue to ultimately have freedom and range of motion. I have a friend that is got a pretty serious hip issue going on. She needs to have surgery. I think it's coming up next week, actually. And she went to see a physical therapist as a pre workup. And she had been complaining about her knee hurting. Well, I know all about when one joint starts to get limited, the other joints try to do too much around it. And so if you have range of motion issues in your hip, the knee is almost going to be affected. But the physical therapist said she was more worried about her knee because she hadn't been straightening it all the way because of her limited range of motion in her hip. So she was losing mobility in her knee function. And when that happens, you don't walk right. So she was like, we're going to work on this when you get done, because this is not a good thing. She wasn't concerned about the hip at all. Take a nice deep breath. And then go ahead and lean away from this bent leg, pull it in, and then stretch it out in front of you. And if it feels a little tender, that's all right. You just have to let your body readjust itself. The higher you sit in a pose like that, the least tension you put on it. We're going to do one more here. And if you have a bolster, I want you to sit on the bolster. If you don't have a bolster, I want you to try to make your blanket thicker. So if I were doing this with my blanket, I could make it like an accordion and it would be higher, right? So either way, I'm going to sit on my blanket, seeing how I made it. I want you up off the floor on purpose. And then you're going to take your feet and bring them to you. And what I want you to be able to feel, and this is why you need the height, is you want to be able to feel like you're going to fall forward. I want the block or the bolster high enough so that you feel like you can just fall forward. You're not really working at it at all. Okay, so feet are as close to your bottom as you can get. Knees are wide. Remember, you can put blocks under your legs if you have any kind of tension, but we just worked on that, so you should feel fine. And this is our last hold here. So you can wrap your hands around your feet. You can reach your arms out on the mat. You can put your hands on blocks or bolsters. All I want you to do is not work at it. I want the body to have the freedom to lean forward. You're probably going to feel a lot of tension in your inner groins. We're doing it on purpose, remember? Breathing into your back body. Breathing into any place where there's sensation. Could be in the mind. Most likely it's in the body somewhere. Soften your face. Soften your effort. Take a nice deep breath. And then slowly starting to sit up. Bring your knees together. Stretch your legs down. It'll help if you flex your feet or rotate your feet around, just to move the circulation back out through the leg. The rest of our class is going to be done on the floor. I'm going to take you through a somatic movement pattern now. We didn't do it in the beginning of class because I did that first thing, so we'll do it now. You're going to lie down with your knees bent. And your feet about as wide as the mat. Now you can see I have this wall here. So I'm going to try to move away from the wall just so that I can extend my arm. Mr. Namaste picture is in my way, so I will move him. All right. So your arms are out like a T, hopefully. If you don't have room, just lower your arms until you can find the space. We're going to take the knees over to the left. So I just want you to let your feet roll to their inner and outer edges. All righty. Now turn your left palm down and look at your right palm that's up. So we're going to take a breath and we're going to switch sides. So you inhale, eyes come up, knees come up. Flip your hands. Eyes go to the left, knees go to the right. When you're ready to take the breath, you inhale, you come to center, you flip your hands, and you go the other way. So this is similar to the other movement pattern that we did, where we're moving back and forth rather than holding steady. Now, I want you to think about your hands a little bit more. And when we turn, I want you to keep turning your hands so they kind of pivot up on their thumbs, like you're trying to rotate them even further. And then come around, head and eyes, knees go to center, and then knees go to one side. Flip your palm from the palm up. Keep going until it can maybe go all the way over. So you just keep working this rotation in the arms. This addresses the whole body. We've been focusing on the inner groins, but now we're doing spine and armpits, shoulders, chest, back. If you want a way to unwind yourself, this is the perfect one. It does a lot all at once. You're just inhaling and exhaling. Turning your body, turning your head, spiraling yourself. Remember, I told you that the tissues are not linear. They're very circular, very rotational. All right. And then come back to center. Bring your hands by your body. Take a moment. And we're going to go into our last yin pose. So I want you to take your right leg down, and this is where you might need your blocks again. In fact, you will need your blocks again. Let me show you. You could use a bolster too if you have a bolster. Put your block hip height away from you. So I want you to take your hips and hop them over to the left. Bring your left knee up in the air. You're going to cross over, and what I want you to do is straighten your leg if you can and put it on the block. So I don't want the block flat. I want it on its second or its highest side. Both legs ideally are straight. And then take a breath and rotate your left shoulder and your left arm back and look at your left hand. So we're in a deeper rotation here. And if it starts to talk to you too much with this leg straight, just soften the knee. Just soften the knee. And that'll help a lot. I like to rest my hand on my leg just as a reminder, and I like to let go of all the efforting. This is a big stretch, a big twist. So it can have a lot of, you can create a lot of tension in this particular one. So try to let go. In Ayurveda, we call the toxins that build up in our body ama. And this ama, they believe, is at the root of all dis-ease, this buildup of ama. And a lot of Ayurveda daily routines have to do with removing this ama, like we scrape our tongue and we use a neti pot and we drink lemon water, so we flush the kidneys and the liver. One of the nice things that people like to do is they do dry brushing. So they take a dry brush and they brush the lymph, and you always start at the ends of your extremities. So from your feet up to your heart, from your hands up to your heart. You brush your dry skin, and then you put a, sometimes it's plain oil, sometimes it's a medicated oil on your skin all over you. And then you rest. Maybe you do a meditation, maybe you do some light reading, but you let that oil soak into your body. And then if you like, you can take a shower and rinse it off. You don't wash it off, you just rinse it off with warm water. And then you put on some nice clothes, usually right before you go to bed, jammies. And it helps you go to sleep, helps you calm your tissues. It helps move the toxins. It's a really lovely, lovely practice, especially in the winter. All right, so if your leg is straight, I want you to bend it and then bring yourself back to your mat. Feet on the floor, rearrange your pelvis so that you're back in neutral. All right, take a moment in the middle. You might feel like you want to rock your pelvis or bring your knees to your chest. And then when you feel ready, we'll go the other way. So the right leg is going to bend and the left leg is going to be down. And bring your hips over to the right. Drop your right leg over the top of your body and see if you can stretch out your leg. Oh, this side's tighter, so my leg's going to be back. Once you're in your position with your legs, rotate your shoulders open, take your right hand open, looking at your right hand. So you're in a full spinal twist here. Remember, your intention is never to feel a specific discomfort anywhere in one spot. So if you're getting a lot of discomfort up in the inner groin, you need to lower your leg or bend your leg, not go so deep. Let your body soften into the shape. You'd be surprised how much you hold on, create tension when you don't need it. Let your body work with gravity. Let the belly relax so that the breath can move downward. You might notice that as you wait in the shape starts to unwind. It doesn't feel so restricted. Maybe the shoulder softens a little bit. Maybe the lower back softens a little bit. In my case, I feel it down my IT band on my top leg, then that's starting to soften a little bit. So wherever you hold these restrictions or these I call them sticky spots. It's the connective tissue that's not functioning properly. So as much as you can, see if you can soften, relax, and let your body do its magic. Alrighty, so go ahead and release your top leg, bending it, bring it back into the floor. Bring your hips back into the center. Rearrange yourself here. And our last action is on purpose to create tension in the tissue of the hip crease. So I want you to come into, you can come into knees to chest, that can be fine. Or you can come into happy baby, so you can hold your toes or your ankles or your outer feet. And if you're here with me, the knees are wider. Try to keep your pelvis on the floor. Soften your shoulders. If you don't like to hold on to your hands with your feet, or maybe your arms are getting tired, you can always wrap your arms underneath your knees, hold your hands. You can keep your feet up, or you can let your legs drop down. Either way. Now, if you're here with me and you feel like you'd like to try this next part, I want you to go back to your bolster, your blanket, whatever you were on before. You're going to put your feet down and lift your hips up so that your bottom sacrum, lower back is on the blanket. And then you're going to take your legs back up. And this time you're going to try to straighten your legs and give them a little support. So you can hold your big toes again. You can wrap your arms around the backs of your legs. Your hips are up on purpose. And you're stretching your legs kind of like a little baby plow pose. I don't want you to do plow pose right now. It's a little too intense. To find a place where you can be. Your legs can be touching. They can be a little bit apart, whatever's comfortable for you. So we're targeting the inner groins, remember, and the backs of the legs, the backs of the lower spine, the lower spine and the buttocks all contribute to congestion around the inner groins. You can even be here in happy baby with your bottom up in the air. It's still as good, just different. You can see my legs aren't straight, but that's because I have pretty short hamstrings. They don't like it when I go all the way straight. But your legs could be straight. All right, the last part of this is I want you to bend your knees. Keep the blanket underneath you if you did that part. Put your feet on the floor. And now if it feels all right, straighten one leg and then try to straighten the other leg. So now we're completely open here in this frontal body. Let your legs go Adjust yourself as you need to. If this talks to your lower back, you should take it away. That prop, and let yourself just rest on the floor. So we're only going to be here for a minute. So if you'd rather not do this part, you want to just go right to Shavasana, you go right ahead. What I think about when I'm teaching or doing yin is when I'm putting this pressure against the tissues and I'm creating this squishing action, if you will. When you open it back up, you might feel this whoosh, this sense of freedom. You might even feel flow. And that's the beauty of this type of practice, that you don't have to work at it too hard. You get such good benefit for your liver and your lymph system, your energy body, because that opens up too. Alrighty, so if you're here with me, I want you to bend your knees and remove the prop. And what you could do is just slide it underneath you and let it be for your legs. You might like that after this last little sequence we did. You can always cover yourself up. If it were my Shavasana, I would be covering myself up. If you have any head or neck tension at all, put a slight lift under your head, like a pillow or a small blanket. And then, as we always do, when you settle down and you stop moving, take a nice deep breath and feel your muscles and your bones let go. When your muscles and your bones let go, your mind can relax. The more still you can be, the better. Take a deeper breath. And remember, you're always welcome to continue to lie here in Shavasana for as long as you like. If you're ready, please start to stretch and move. Ultimately bending your knees and rolling to a side. Take your time. Go at your own pace. Once you take a breath or two on your side, slowly come to sitting. And once you're sitting, take your hands to your heart. Thumbs touch your breastbone. As you slide the fingernails up your breastbone ever so slightly, you'll feel the front body float, the back body release, and the head can bow. And gratitude always for our time together on the mat, our deep body wisdom and guiding light. May our light always shine brightly, and may we always see the light in each other. Namaste.